Independent films are an entity on its own, right? And then you have the big studio productions that a lot of us, or many of us on this production, have done. I think the first couple of days were a bit of an adjustment as far as, well, you can't just do that. You have to let other departments know because they're, you know, the indie guys are so used to doing things on their own. Like, here, let me grab this, let me do that. I'll do the hair, and now when we're doing an actual union show, you can't just go and do other people's jobs.
For sure. Yeah, it looked really awesome. It sounded really awesome. Last one, for sure.
Finally, I did something right.
Excellent.
Having dipped my toes in the bigger budget style versus my indie background, I can say there's definitely pros and cons between both. If you're looking at from it from an indie point of view, basically the attitude with an indie filmmaker is you get in there and you do it any way possible, right? You know, if there's a rule or a law, you do it and then beg for forgiveness later type thing. And once you get into these bigger things, it's a little bit harder to start doing this stuff. You have people who are in charge of making sure that you don't do those things or go outside of the line of outside of the boundaries. And I found that a little frustrating on this one, just because it's the first time I've really run into like red tape.
Give him the more of a direct line.
Yeah. Like, yeah, this line here, you're like, he's not listening to you. Right?
He's an independent director and filmmaker, and he's won many awards, and working with him has been a joy. You never know what you're going to get. He's funny, he's witty, he's quirky, and I like quirky. I'm the man that's a little more toughness and have to keep him in line because he's just Travis. And if people get to know him, they'll know what I'm talking about. But he's brilliant to work with. And many of the people on this set that's never worked with him before are having a ball with him.
All right. So the nice thing about shooting action sequences is it makes your brain go, but then it comes back.
There's a difference when you get on set and you see the director and he knows first of all who you are because he's been on the casting and runs over to say hi and give you a big hug, as opposed to seeing the director and they're just like, who are you? You're like, no, I'm playing, and they're like, oh, okay, and then they're busy, they're too busy. So Travis did not do that. So right out of the hop, I could tell he was gonna be cool.
So when you two are doing your face off, just wait until she cues you to get the horns and unlock the horns and part.
It gives his actors free rein to explore, to flex a little bit in terms of what's possible and move, and he'll work around that. Because everybody's got their own different process, and I think he's fantastic for allowing, personally, it's been myself that he just allowed me the room to play, and it's been great.
Did you get your war buddy to sign off? So much. Excellent.
You know, he's been super helpful. Like, I wish I could say that I've been someone that's worked so much that I know the ins and outs of all these camera moves, and anybody that wants to hire me again can assume that. But, you need a little help with, like, you need it sort of, spread out. And he'll come to me and he'll say, you know what, don't worry about that, Derek, because I'm going to cut from that. I'm going to go to this. Like, just do what you're going to do, and it doesn't matter. He makes it so much more easy for me with telling me where the cut's going to be and taking the pressure off. So that's all you can ask for.
Perfect. I think it all makes sense, right? Like, yeah, I felt like the motivation works pretty much everywhere.
I'm a pretty collaborative person, so when Will came on set, I was actually looking forward to having him on there because, one, I wanted him to see that we weren't a bunch of goofballs, and where all that money that his fans had raised, where it had gone. And two, for him to actually see his character come alive. Like, he and I had talked, for about a year about this, and so I'm excited. So I go to imagine the guy who actually wrote the character for the last, 10, 12 years of his life, seeing him live would be exciting as well. And so, Will went in there and he had his notes about how a scene would play out or whatever. And as long as those things landed in a way that made sense, doesn't matter to me if Will had those notes or if a production assistant had a note. I'm always about making sure that the film can be as good as it can be.
making this too easy.
A script is never 100% finished, and particularly when it comes to the day of shooting, you might see things that aren't quite working, you want to tweak them a little bit, and yeah, especially with this one, you know, we've had various aspects of the script that have moved slightly one way or the other, and I was able to come in and make some suggestions on how we can maybe fix a couple of things or make certain scenes flow better. And yeah, it's quite an interesting experience rewriting this story on the fly with the actors getting ready to go, so the pressure's on sometimes.
Will and I needed to have a cameo in the film.
That was 100% his idea. I kid you not, I did not want to be, you know, featured. I didn't want to have cameos or anything, but he kept saying like, "Oh, it'll be fun, just do it, you can have a little scene."
And so the original scene that we were going to do was Will and I were going to be snipers on the rooftop, and we had this really sexy scene set up where one of the main bad guys, Kroger, comes up and he's being really intimidating and being an asshole to these two snipers or whatever. And it was a really, really awesome scene. And unfortunately, we had to cut it because of some red tape. And instead of, you know, sour grapes or whatever, I plunked on my indie hat and figured out a different scene, a very different scene. That happens at the end of the movie, where our characters, who are briefly featured in the film, show up at the end. We're on vacation, relaxing, complaining about how awful Volkov and Kroger are as bosses, and how we'll never do rooftop work ever again as guards. And things do not end well for us. I'll leave it at that. But it was really fun to do, and Will was game to do pretty much whatever. He was like, "I'm not an actor." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not really an actor either, but we're here to have fun." And I honestly think the backers are really gonna like what we came up with. Cut.